Hello, welcome to Sound and Fury Book Reviews. As usual, I'm Tina. Today I'm doing a book review of Asunder by Kerstin Hall. This is a book coming out August 20th, 2024 from Tor.com. It is a dark fantasy. I received this art from NetGalley in exchange for a fair review. Dark, atmospheric, brooding as hell, and also hopeful and immersive. This book tore me asunder in the best way possible. What is it about? We choose our own gods here. Karis Eska is a death speaker, locked into an irrevocable compact with Sebaster, a terrifying eldritch entity, three-paced, hundred-winged, unforgiving, who has granted her the ability to communicate with the newly departed. She pays the rent by using her abilities to investigate suspicious deaths around the troubled city she calls home. When a job goes sideways and connects her to a dying stranger with a dangerous secret, her entire world is upended. Farain is willing to pay a ludicrous sum of money for her help. To save him, Karis inadvertently binds him to her shadow, an act that may doom them both. If they want to survive, they will need to learn to trust one another. Together, they journey to the heart of a fated empire, all the while haunted by arcane horrors and unquiet ghosts of their pasts. And all too soon, Karis knows her debts will come due. I loved this book. I almost wanted to bump the review to August so it had a chance of being my favorite for that month, as how am I supposed to decide between it and The Mercy of Gods? I have no idea. I'm not looking forward to this decision. I had been eagerly awaiting this book since I heard about it way back at the end of last year. I was so thankful to get an arc, but of course, by the time I got to it, I had entirely forgotten what it was about. The blur was actually kind of vague, which is entirely how I prefer my jacket copy. I will let you know, though, that this is a demon possession story times 2. The first type is the contract Karis has with the monster, and the second is, I will take your essence into my body to save you from dying, but then it turns out Buddy's essence can communicate with Karis. So that was really, really fun. The story, like all of my favorite novels, provides no info dumping. We learn as we go that this is a rather technologically advanced fantasy. By that I don't mean set now with cell phones and stuff, but in terms of say a Belle Epoque fantasy or perhaps early Renaissance as compared to medieval. It's definitely not an urban fantasy, but this world also functions under the reality that gods, called heralds here, are real and they can provide boons to humans, kind of like the Greek gods did in those myths, but that there are also these even more powerful eldritch monsters that came into this world from another dimension. I think I'm explaining that properly. I'm telling you this because it is the one thing this novel could have used some more detail on earlier on, because I was having trouble kind of understanding the deal with these kind of monster demigod things, and I wasn't sure if that was something I should have been understanding or not. So the fact that it wasn't kind of a huge revelation seemed to me that it just needed a little bit more kind of backstory. Even at one point it could have just been explained in a couple sentences more earlier on. It could have also been me. Maybe it was and I missed it. I don't know. Anyway, at least you know the deal now. One of the best things about this magic system is the semi-sentient transportation systems that are both fascinating and kind of horrific. They reminded me instantly of the carriage from Beauty and the Beast. And they were so unique and cool. These aspects, the heralds and the bits of self-sustaining magic like the transportation thingies, are woven into the society in a way that even the people living there don't really understand them. So there's all these scholars who study the magical aspects, and people just kind of accept it, with a passive wariness. Unless you're a death speaker like Karis, that's a bit different for you. But most people are just kind of use the transportation systems and don't really think much of it, or I guess try to ignore the kind of weirdness of some of them. There is a train at one point. Another way that the world building is shown and not told is how it's tied to kind of the plot of the story. The plot is quite basic. It's just a quest narrative essentially, and sometimes simpler is better. I'm not complaining about that. But the different places that Karis travels to and how these areas, much as Terroir for wine, kind of shape the magical elements within, really show how the world works and how the world functions. So it's really interesting because you think you know how the world works, and then Karis will go to a different place and something new will come up that definitely ties into everything else, but adds like a new layer of understanding of meaning about it. And that's on top of the thing that I already explained to you about the monsters or demons or gods or whatever they are. So it's very it's very layered, much like, you know, like a Russian doll. It's so cool in that way. One of my favorite places was the seaside town where they're bombarded by crashing waves constantly. That town was just so easy to picture. And I mean, I love the ocean. I mean, as you know, I love the Great Lakes, which are basically inland seas, and their waves are always crashing around, especially on Lake Huron, Lake Superior. And so it really brought to mind that for me. I was like, oh, I love this. The characters are also fantastic. We have Karis, who is kind of a bit of a wet blanket at times, albeit understandably. Ferain, who is inhabiting her. We have a surly priestess and a quirky scholar, and also the creepy goddess of brine and urchins, who is a very minor character but added so much to the story. Ferain is easily likable, as he is a great foil to Karis in personality, because he's kind of funny and he's kind of nice and stuff, where Karis is grouchy. It's a sunshine grouchy kind of thing. And the other two women make for a well-rounded crew. I cared about all of them, and I shipped them in pairs. The action in the novel is visceral and a little gory, but never gratuitous. It served to suit the novel's dark and brooding atmosphere, which I appreciated. It's a little gloomy, but it's never depressing, as there are moments of levity, and there's even the occasional laugh in the book. It's very well balanced in that way. Anyway, this book, if you couldn't tell, I blew me away. I loved it. I will warn you, though, the ending isn't for everyone. I didn't mind it at all, but the ending is kind of a bit unresolved. The lead up to the ending, I guess the denouement is a bit unresolved, but the climax is really, really cool. I'm going to move into a few spoilers for a minute, so a bit of fangirling, if you will. So please stop watching here if you intend on reading this. I highly recommend you do read this because it's really, really cool. Thank you to the publisher for the e-arc. I really, really appreciate it. So, spoilers. Okay, so the shipping in this book. Obviously, I am pro scholar and priestess. I always love that combination, the kind of like, you know, sciencey person with the like kind of religious or like spiritual person. And so I'm really, really banking on that if there's a sequel to this book. I don't know if it's intended to be set up as a sequel or if it's just kind of like a one-off. I have no idea. I kind of hope there's another book. And then the main ship in the book obviously was Karis and Ferain. Clearly Karis is bi or pansexual. So the love story is so incredibly slow burn. I absolutely loved that. I actually wondered almost to the sex scene with Ferain's ex, or whatever her name was, if she and Ferain were even going to get together. You know, like I was wondering if it was going to be like kind of just like a deep friendship. I would have been fine with that because we never see stories about men and women developing deep friendships, at least not very often. But I'm also very much a romantic at heart. So when that did happen, I was like, yeah, they do have feelings for each other. And then the shadow makeout scene, oh my god, I was like, oh, this is exactly where I wanted this book to go. 100%. Monster fucking yay! I also wanted to mention how interesting the final end battle, whatever it was, with Sebaster was. It was so fascinating to me how, despite Sebaster's intentions, in the end it seemed more like he was misunderstood than pure evil. Of course it would be, though, because, you know, it's a monster from a different dimension that probably has no idea what kind of trouble it's causing everybody around it. Like, he's making this contract with Karis, but does he actually understand the hardship he's putting her through? Can he even conceptualize of that? That I thought was such an interesting question, because we never really think about that when we hear stories of, like, demon possession and things like that, especially with, like, alien monsters. And so I thought it was really cool, though, how in the end it's the heralds from our own dimension that are actually, like, the evil ones. That was such a great little twist. I mean, we kind of saw that with what's her name? the evil brine goddess. I can't remember anyone's name, but it was really cool to have that kind of reinforced at the end when she talks to that one that shows up. See, again, I can't remember everyone's name. The ending leading into that, I thought it was really interesting. You know, she's right back where she started, but she doesn't have the contract or compact or whatever they called it. But her friends are across the world. She doesn't even have the money for that spider thing and the flying train and all that stuff. So how's she going to get back to them? I don't know. And, like, the thing is, though, you kind of know that she's going to get back to them because she is without fail, nothing but resourceful and determined. And so I just kind of thought that was an interesting way to end the story if it does end there, because it felt hopeful to me. I'm like, no, she'll get to her friends. She'll find a way. She'll find a way. And she'll find a way to get Farron back as well. So, yeah, if you watched this, let me know in the comments if you kind of had these same perceptions, if you liked the ending, if you liked the whole kind of twist with Sebastian and all that stuff. Yeah, and if you liked the shadow makeout scene, because that was great. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye.